Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. And I wanted to speak today on inflammation, weight loss. I wanted to speak on inflammation, weight loss, and how it actually influences weight loss and why it's quite beneficial as well to have inflammation and why you need inflammation. And also, that inflammation is a very, very complex topic. And that's why I'm either been diving back into the research on it, and it just takes a bit of time to study all of that and to understand it. But I said to myself, I can give the group or give people a, like, what you call it, a university slideshow presentation kind of webinar and all of this, or I can use what I done in college for years and what I done to study over the last 10 or so years, and how I start to understand complex things like this, because it is very, very complex. And the reason why I say inflammation is complex is because it's quite like specific to an individual, it's specific to so many different diseases, and it's also like it has relationship with gut microbiota and different stuff too, which we could be on this video for hours upon hours, and like usually get bored. We'll all probably get bored, and before you know it, we'll end up just not watching the video and getting any information. So what I'd like to do in this is I'm gonna break this into a couple of parts, if that's okay. So for today, I just want to explain a little bit about body fat and how detrimental body fat can be, and how it can be linked to inflammation, and how some healthy fats and unhealthy fats and the difference between them, and why a lot of fats are beneficial. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give the recommendations based on the scientific literature on inflammation. And you might be someone like, I want to read all the science and I want to study it. Look, I'm at to listen to 3.5 to 4 hours of lectures last week, of another 4 or 5 lectures to go on it, and I've read all the papers on it, and I've reread it, and this is not new to me, inflammation, and that's not trying to be like as if I'm better than another person. So you're more than welcome to go and study all them, or else I can just give you the information too, or else I can just give you links to all of them too, if you have the time. But I'm going to communicate that too. I'm not going to do an introduction or anything like that. We're just going to get straight into it. So, first off, you got to look at inflammation as like chronic and acute inflammation, right? And what I mean by chronic and acute inflammation is like sometimes we throw these words around. You see a lot of it going around. Inflammation, inflammation. I have inflammation and stuff like that. Like inflammation is quite beneficial at certain times, and it's beneficial to it's kind of like chronic inflammation that can be linked to diseases, that can be linked to like, well, type 2 diabetes is a disease, can be linked to a lot of immune system diseases and stuff, because the thing is that like when we gain weight all the time, we're constantly gaining weight. Like fat tissue is pro-inflammatory, a lot of it is too. Now, especially visceral fat, right? So when we have a lot of fat to lose, sometimes the best solution is to try find a solution of how we can actually start to lose that consistently over time. Because I'm not going to actually go into energy intake right now. I just want to explain to you actually about body fat, right? So, if any of you don't know, I was a bit of an artist in school, and I still do art, right? I know you're going to be like, they're probably not the best diagrams in the world, but it takes me about 2 hours to write one of these, but it gives me a more understanding of like body fat. So what I do is I get body fat in the middle. So all of us are going to think body fat, okay? And body fat acts like an organ, not just a storage depot. So it actually communicates, as you can see, body fat communicates with our brain, all right? Body fat communicates with our heart. I think that's a heart on this side. I don't know whether it's a good drawing of a heart, but like I done my best, and I wasn't redoing the whole thing. And then down here you have what's called your pancreas, which is what releases insulin. Makes sense? And then down the bottom you have that big shield. I think that's a shield that was meant to draw. That's your immune system, right? And then you have your liver. And then you have your muscle tissue at the top here, right? So our muscles, so think about like body fat is always communicating with our muscle, communicating with our brain, communicating with our heart, communicating with our pancreas. This is what hormones do, right? But I'm not a hormone specialist, so I won't be going into trying to be a specialist, but I have an understanding of basic hormone physiology and how hormones communicate in the body. So think of that. So it's going to the heart, it's communicating with our muscles, communicating with our brain, our pancreas, our immune system, and our liver, right? Now, what messages does body fat send? That's the question. Well, healthy fat and unhealthy fat send different signals. I'm not going to go through that right now, right? But I will be going through it today. So you have unhealthy fat and you have healthy fat, right? You probably look at some healthy fat that we consume every single day and healthy fat that we have. We do store monounsaturated fats in our body too, right? So think of this, right? Just one thing before, because I'm not going to be able to. So we know that in research that monounsaturated fat intake is linked to better brain health, all right? It's linked to better brain health, all right? And what's also known is that monounsaturated fats are very, very good for muscle tissue, all right? And monounsaturated fats are just all over very, very healthy for reducing pro-inflammation. Makes sense? But we're not going to just eat monounsaturated fats and everything is going to be sorted out. But I just want to say that now while we're on this little. Would that be a scary diagram or is it okay? Is it scary? So you kind of got to think of that, right? And then, so unhealthy fats would do different signals. Make sense? Unhealthy fats are quite like pro-inflammatory, which I'll go through in a minute. So if you look at here, I didn't mean this, but this has hormones, cytokines, and immune signals, alright? So hormones are like chemical messengers, alright? That's what hormones do. They're like messengers in the body. So it's very, very difficult to explain static hormones. Makes sense? Or my cortisol's high. Oh, this is going on. Like these are constantly communicating and moving. Do you understand me? Like they're not actually static in the body, hormones, right? The cortisol can have many, many benefits for regulation of controlling blood glucose. Makes sense? Preventing you from probably dying. You know, there's different things that different hormones do in different stages of what's going on in our physiology, right? So, cytokines, you probably heard of cytokines. They're like proteins. Like they're for inflammatory signals. You hear the cytokines. Is that what you call them? Cytokines. So cytokines like IL-6, TNFA, like these are cytokines, alright? Myokines, alright? So that's what they kind of are. Then you have like immune signals which are either protective or inflammatory. You probably heard of things like macrophages, like they're like white blood cells that clean things up. You know what I'm saying? Like after inflammation. Makes sense. But again, we don't have to go too deep into this and please don't get overwhelmed, alright? So that's what it kind of says. So think of that. And then the key takeaway that I wrote on this is body fat isn't just stored energy. It is an active organ that communicates with your brain, as I said, your brain, your muscles, your liver, your heart and immune system. Healthy fats sends helpful messages, alright? So think of that. Healthy fats send helpful messages. Omega-3 sends omega-3 helpful messages. Make sense? Think of that, like that's why when we have like our fish intakes and our high omega-3, omega-9 sends healthy messages. Omega-9 is in olive oil, good quality olive oil. Especially if you live in the Mediterranean, you can get good ones. Unhealthy fats can send inflammatory messages. Make sense? You with me? So just take a deep breath. Breathe out. And we go into the next. I have to go backwards because I made a mistake on my first diagram. Great way to process your brain in the mornings, to understand when you're reading and all like that. I think drawing and communicating to make things stick. You know, I learned this from a great book. You're more than welcome to learn it. So the one I was looking for is this one here, yeah. So this is the one that I was telling you about. So I've done another diagram on healthy fats versus unhealthy fats. I'm going to explain all this to you, don't worry. You have nothing to worry about. I'll simplify all this for you. What messages does body fat send? Healthy fat and unhealthy fat, as I said, sends different signals. So healthy fats, right, as on the right, you can see in the left with the little smiley face, and then you have unhealthy fats, alright? Let's go to healthy fats first, alright? So healthy fats, as you can see, adiponectin is a protein, alright, which it's kind of like improves insulin sensitivity, alright? So it's kind of a positive fats in the body, alright? It's a positive protein. And then it kind of like, what I'm trying to do, it kind of protects our blood vessels, alright? So it protects our blood vessels. So think of this, right? Think of angiogenesis when we're developing new blood vessels, right? To keep our blood clean, alright? Makes sense? Because like when we have a good aerobic system and fitness, we're supplying oxygenated blood to our body, alright? Makes sense? So like it kind of all links in. Can you see the way all this links in and it's not just one thing, alright? And then at the end of it, think of it as it helps reduce inflammation. And like adiponectin would be kind of in correlation with increase. I'm gonna go a bit technical here, but just like mitochondria increases mitochondria, which helps regenerate energy. Just think of that mitochondria, right? Helps keep the supply of oxygen to be able to keep us working out, alright? Better mitochondria, I would say, better production of energy, better fitness levels, alright? So then you kind of think of leptin. Leptin is a hunger signaling hormone, alright? So leptin, think of that, regulates our whole appetite, alright? So leptin is in our fat cells and it sends signals to the brain, alright, to keep us full, alright? And leptin also works in correlation with your thyroid. You probably heard of your thyroid. We're not going to go into thyroid today, alright? So leptin also supports energy balance. And what I mean by that is, I'll explain that to you now so you'll understand. When you go into these energy deficits all the time, like when you go into an extreme energy deficit, you get a decrease in leptin, and that's why hunger goes up, right? So cortisol's gonna go up. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Makes sense? Like we need probably decreases in leptin to start losing fat. Makes sense? Because we need to be into an energy deficit. Alright? So when your thyroid goes down, once you have someone that understands this, it's kind of different because your thyroid is going to decrease. So do you ever hear all this hormones, stuff like that? So think about it. When you go into these extreme energy deficits, your leptin goes down and your thyroid goes down. Makes sense? And maybe like sex hormones go down too, but we're not going into sex hormones today. So just think of that. So that's why like we're kind of hungry in extreme energy deficits, or we're expanding a lot of energy. Makes sense? So that's what we need to know. And then like energy balance sorts that. So I'll give you a little bit of an example so you can understand that. I've competed as a fitness model so many times years ago, right? And kind of like leptin was discovered, I think, in 1993. And I came across it from a coach called Scott Abel. He was very, very famous when we were growing up. We hadn't got access to all this YouTube and information. We had to go to seminars. Like you'd go to the seminar and you'd learn about leptin from Lyle McDonald or learn about leptin from Scott Abel. I learned more about it in Australia. I started learning about it by the Australians because let's say you go into a 2 week. Do you ever heard of diet breaks? You probably heard of diet breaks. So realistically, what a diet break was really for was to increase levels of leptin. Like see the way you hear people saying cheat meals and stuff like that. It's not a cheat meal. The reason why a person increases their food intake on an energy deficit is to increase leptin again, alright? Because leptin is in correlation with energy balance. Make sense? So when we're in an energy deficit, we decrease the calories. The calories, wherever the energy intake goes down, leptin goes down. So energy balance is in a deficit. Make sense? So there's a high chance or possibility that leptin will go down. Stay with me. So leptin communicates with the hypothalamus in the brain, alright? That's what so it communicates with your brain a lot too. So it kind of regulates a lot of hunger, alright? It regulates hunger, alright? Then we have resistance-like molecules. So that's kind of like our monounsaturated fats, our polyunsaturated fats, our MCT fats. They're kind of healthy fats in our body. And they support the health of our metabolism, our metabolic health, alright? they would support our health, all right? And they, like, do you ever hear, like, when you look into fish oil, say, supports inflammation, helps with the creation of new proteins, helps with brain health and stuff like that. Like, there's definitely great studies on fish oil and stuff like that. But you don't have to go out and buy a big expensive fish oil. You can actually just eat more fatty fish and trust product, especially if you live in different parts of the world. Like in Norway, the fish is great. Like I eat a lot of Norwegian fish. I don't actually take a supplement. But again, drop me questions if you wanted to know more on that and why I do it. I'll tell you now why I do it. My professor in Universidad Europea has a PhD in fish oils and omega-3s, and he does the same. And there's been lots of great researchers on lots of podcasts and reading some papers, and they done the same recommendation too. 2 to 3 good servings of high fat fish like mackerel or sardines or probably salmon, trout, all these kind of things. Like, there's a high chance and a high possibility that you'll be able to get more omega-3 fats in your diet. Right? Now, promotes glucose uptake in muscles, meaning it helps support glucose going into your muscle tissues. All right, that's another thing too. Stay with me. Well, this is the last one, and then we're finished. All right. So then you have on this side we have unhealthy fats. All right. So here's the unhealthy fats. Don't mind the diagram. Unhealthy fats. Don't mind that little face. So as I said to you, they're like inflammatory messages. That's stored body fat, right? So when you have excessive fat on you, there's a high possibility that this could be going on, all right, from unhealthy fats, all right. So think of like stored body fat, a lot of body fat. We have, let's say we have 10% extra body fat to lose, or something like that, or we have a bit of weight to lose. Again, I'm not coming from a judgmental place, but if you lose that, like that's why, like when you look into people that lose weight, a lot of it is anti-inflammatory. Makes sense, because when we're overweight, we're pro-inflammatory a lot of the time. Like we're kind of linked to a lot of like inflammation. Then everything that we eat, we think inflammatory responses, not being able to recover from training, not being able to actually exercise for long durations, kind of all these kind of things. So there is probably a high possibility, and then that also links with stuff to the gut microbiota too, right? Which we're not going to get into. So think of this, right? So you have, let's say, TNFA, all right, which is linked to, I don't want to go into cancer or anything like that, because I'm not that educated on it, but I know some there's some like stuff that says that. Again, I'm not making that claim. So think of it, but that for sure, even reading the papers, it showed that it promotes insulin resistance, all right? So it's not just on its own. Like don't think, oh, like this happens with many other factors and lifestyle factors and environmental factors. So then it increases pro-inflammation and can disrupt the insulin signal. So think of insulin is a storage hormone that helps with the storage in the muscle tissue and stuff like that. So having insulin always active and being insulin sensitive is actually quite beneficial for an individual. So do you ever notice when you look into diabetes and we just blame carbohydrates? That's not true, right? So I'm going to say that. And then we have IL-6, interleukin-6, all right? So I'd be more worried about this with chronic elevated levels of IL-6, because when we go in to do a weight training session, we need inflammation. So think of this, right? We go in, we're on a weight training program, we need to kind of like, we're going to be inflamed if we're breaking down muscle tissue. Makes sense? We get an elevation in myokines and cytokines, which is an increase in IL-6. But when we eat well, we're in energy balance, we recover well, the macrophages and the adaptations actually help support that. So if we're not actually, I'm not saying go out and get inflamed and training or stuff like that, but like we kind of need to be like breaking down muscle tissues and being able to lift more and move more, training over a duration of time, which is an inflammatory response. Makes sense? So when people say like, oh, inflammation, we kind of need a little bit of inflammation to be able to improve in our weight training and get stronger and also improve our muscle tissue. Are you with me? Yes. I hear the yes there. I hear the yes. So then so think of that, like, so chronic levels of interleukin-6 over a duration of time would be like linked into like obesity and being overweight and stuff like that. But it also would drive an increase in inflammation too, and it's associated with a lot of like metabolic dysfunction. I didn't just make all this up. That's another thing too. This is all from papers. You're welcome to read too yourself. I'm just trying to get the key points out of it. So, adipose tissue also can damage pancreatic B cells, which is another thing too. So, it can affect the pancreas and the cells inside of the pancreas. Sorry, and it reduces insulin secretion, and it's high diabetes risk. Right. So, think of this. I'm going to share something with you now, and I'm going to get into the main key takeaways and what I'd focus on based on the research, right? But like you hear like bulking, cutting, maintenance. So one of the reasons why when you're bulking and gaining muscle, that's not great to go to high body fat levels, is because the elevation in body fat linking to insulin resistance, linking to all these pro-inflammatory diseases. Makes sense? So we want to keep insulin sensitivity at its best when we're growing muscle tissue too. Makes sense? Or when we're going into like a bulking of growing muscle tissue. And this is why you kind of like see a lot now, probably including myself, that would lean more towards a lean bulk, which is not, it's not like, you're not going to always just gain lean muscle tissue. Like, there's a high chance that you can gain body fat too, but the less that you can gain and the more muscle tissue you can gain, it's probably going to be a little bit more better for you, and probably a little bit more healthier too, so you don't run into risks of an elevation in insulin resistance. Makes sense? This keeps pausing. So now we're done with all the knowledge, we're done with all that. Now the next one is like why lifestyle helps. Sorry, you're more than welcome to have a copy of these pictures. I'll send you them, no bother. But don't copy me. You'll just look the same. This is how I used to study. Still do study like this. So let's go with, based on research, we go with like small daily choices equals a long-term impact. Are we all in agreement with that? Our small daily choices increases a long-term impact. The habits that we do every single day. I always hear this getting thrown around. Back to basics. If we were all doing basics, we'd all be probably healthy, That's being honest. Because like, and that's in a good way. Like, I'm not coming across judgmental, but we would. If we were doing these basics, what they are, we'd all probably be a lot more healthier. So number one is exercise. A suggestion of 3 strength training home workouts a week, or if you want to go to the gym, alright? If you have time, the gym is a great place to make friends. I just want to let you know. And here's what, like, I don't struggle with talking to people. I'm not shy. I'm not like anything like that. So I would talk to anybody, because I'm not trying to put myself as this perfect person, because I'm not. But like, I don't really look at someone as like different. I just look at everybody as the same. I don't know what it is. Like, it might be, I don't know. Like, so I talk to anyone, trying to come from, and like, I kind of learned something in life, and I'll tell you what it is, and it might help you as well. I'm not saying that I want to help you, but it's like, you don't know what's going on in somebody's life. Like, you really, really don't, alright? So, I try to understand that when I'm around the different kind of people or stuff like that, but healthy communication around people is very, very important. So, rather than going into the gym and, I don't know, you might do the beast mode or the headphones in and you're locked in and you're on with the music. I don't know, you might do heavy metal, you might do whatever you do. You might do dance, but sometimes just, if you have got time and you're looking to socialise a little bit more, just ask someone, say, like, how's the training going? Like, how's your training going? You know what I mean? Get into conversation. But you also probably haven't got the time. But just giving you an example, because social health is very, very important for fitness, alright? Socialising, meeting people, and you'd be amazed at who you'd meet in the gym, So it depends on what you're going for, but you might be someone that's busy, you have to get up in the morning. Yeah, and I've done this with lots of menopausal women and lots of women and mothers and parents, and you just have to get up in the morning, to get the workout done, and that's all that you have to get done. That's fine. Yeah, you can do that from home. You should look at my YouTube channel. I have loads of videos on bodyweight training. I'll send you any ones that you want. And yeah, you can just do it at home and still get the same training every single week. Don't do 7 or 8, just do 3. If you can do 2, do 2, alright? Do what you can do consistently over time. Remember, small daily choices, long-term benefits, long-term impact, alright? Your daily habits can control inflammation. Makes sense? So, I would say in green, I have, because think of like exercise improves insulin sensitivity if it's progressive, and it helps reduce inflammation. Makes sense? Chronic inflammation, systemic inflammation gets reduced. So what I would suggest is on this as well, if you can, get involved in 2 or 3 community events, or just go out running if you can. I mean, when you're going out running, right? Can I make a little suggestion? Please. You don't have to get ready for a marathon, or you don't have to get ready for anything. Just do running to your capabilities. I'll give you an example. I came out of a hernia injury and I was in hospital, and I'm not doing one of these stories to feel sorry for myself. Boom. I was in the middle of Barcelona, great surgery, all that went well, and before you know it, I remember I couldn't run or anything, and I remember I done 3-minute runs, 3-minute walks, and I increased that to 5 and 5, and I done that over time, and like I can now go out depending on the weight that I'm at, and I can run, but it took years of like consistent showing up, dedication. So start to your capabilities. I had a woman signed up with me for a 10k. She ended up going on and running 300k or 200k's or 100 mile. Like, you'd be amazed at what you can do with the consistency. Makes sense? So, can you get involved in any sports or communities outside the league? Like here in the Mediterranean, we play paddle. We play different kinds of sports. Anything that you could get involved in that you want to do. That's not going to cause any risk. Like, you don't have to go down and join something that's going to cause you risk. Join something that you enjoy. Like, don't go and just try and do loads at once. You might go to a yoga class. Again, you might meet more friends. You might go and relax for a week. Pilates, you know? Because like the one thing I noticed about Pilates, right? When you go to Pilates, your nutrition improves. Here's why. Because if you have a Pilates class on 2 to 3 times a week and you're overeating, you're feeling bloated, you feel it in the Pilates, don't you? Because you have to use your stomach a lot and you have to move and get into uncomfortable positions. That if you did stick with that, you might enjoy it, and you might just do 1 to 2 times a week. But all of a sudden, you have this consistent workout schedule. You know. Number 2 is protein intake. Again, I know it sounds boring, but it's very, very important. I'd say 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Look, we can get technical and start breaking down research and start getting really specific on this. But look, you'll be okay if you're in that range, right? And then you look into quality kinds of proteins with a high absorption of proteins. For an example, things like egg whites, meats, dairy products, soy products, like a lot of them like absorb a lot of the protein that we're consuming. You know, when we eat it every single day, like egg whites has a high absorption of protein. Again, just drop me a message and I'll give you that rather than going through the bioavailability of it, because we've used a lot of technical words here today, I believe. So we don't want to we want to get off them big words. But just think of, the more you have better digestion proteins for better amino acid profiles, probably the more better it is for you to be able to hit the daily recommendation of about 0.8 per 1 gram per pound of body weight, although it is lean body mass, which is a little bit different, but we're not going into that today. So think of protein, and in simple terms, it supports muscle, immune system, and keeps you full and controls blood sugar. Alright, so protein is the number 1 nutrient for the immune system, which helps with inflammation. So we need protein for our immune system also. Just remember that. It's also very, very satiating, meaning it keeps us full. Alright, and then sleep 6 to 8 hours a night. The reason why I say 6 to 8 is because not everyone can get 8 to 8 hours, but if you can work up towards that, go for it. But don't try perfect this, alright? Just do the best with what you can. All right, I'll explain that right now with some tips. Helps think of restore the body and reduces stress. All right. So when you sleep really, really well, it's one of the best things for recovery. All right, for recovering you, repairing damaged tissues overnight through your sleep, your brain function, thinking, um, insulin sensitivity as well. Sleep supports. I'm pretty sure on that. And what's his name? What's the man's name? One second, guys. There's a guy called James, the sleep guy. I'm gonna tell you now. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. One second. There, James Wilson. There's a guy called James Wilson. He's absolutely amazing. I follow him on sleep. He's on BBC and all now, and he's very, very intelligent, and kind of like a lot of the people when you look into sleep, like really, I mean, like all these gadgets. Not saying he says that, but just in general, some of them could be causing you more stress. You might just get into bed, turn your phone off, relax, read a book, get to bed at the same time every single night. Eat, like if you look into in research, it shows people with higher carbohydrate intake over years almost show better like long sleep duration, right? So you might look into like improving your sleep hygiene a little bit and just making it conscious to improve your sleep. Because if we're exercising, sleeping a little bit better, we may like be doing a lot of stuff already, but doing this consistently 6 to 7 days a week, alright? And then we have vegetable intake. Look, there's nearly 70 years of science on vegetable intake, so I'll go with it. And they show definitely for reducing cholesterol levels, inflammatory responses, so much different stuff, alright? So think of this, like a lot of vegetables are like high in antioxidants which help fight off pathogens, or they also help with the reduction of inflammation because dietary fiber is in a lot of fruits and vegetables, and that's definitely one thing that shows the reduction of inflammation. And then not only that, it also improves the good and bad bacteria in our gut microbiota in our large intestines, which is our second brain. The gut microbiota, I think, controls about 70% of the immune system. That's what I think, and it could be higher, it could be lower, but it's all linked. Makes sense. So the health, there's a good even quote like the healthier your gut microbiota is, possibly the more healthier your immune system is, your skin, and the reduction of inflammation too. Alright. Again, usually when you lose a lot of weight, this helps too. So then you have daily step count and social life, as I said to you already, which is very, very important. Just walking on the ground doing 10,000 accurate. Just do your best to get more steps and be more active as an individual. Work up towards it. Some days you might get 15,000. Some days you might get 20. And who cares if you get that? Just some days you might get 5. Some days you mightn't get any at all. But just look at how do we develop these habits over a long duration of time. How do we improve our habits that become non-negotiables every single day? So think of this, and the last thing is I said to you, you're going to say, so think of this, right? Right there, sorry. There. Less inflammation, less inflammation, lower stress on your cells and your organs. Improves better health with more energy, better metabolic health, and lower disease risk. Healthy habits, healthy body. So think of that. So the key point is that if you have body fat to lose and you don't know where to start and you're looking to lose all that, like I just highly suggest that, like, again, I'm not speaking in absolute terms, but from being in the fitness industry myself for and I know I can make big use like long term statements and stuff like that, but studying, consistently working in it, consistently qualifying all the time, reading endless amount of books, endless amount of articles every day, endless amount of research papers, and just understand and even listen to other people, even listen to like the obesity people, stuff like that. Like weight loss can be very, very beneficial for us guys, and it can probably solve a lot of these problems. Alright, so if you have weight to lose or fat to lose, I also have a training on women of 100 something studies showing that 3 of the most important things for even losing weight is just some form of activity that I explained there, protein intake, and an energy deficit. And usually how we set this up and do this consistently over time, we'll start to lose the weight over the duration of time. And like, there's a high possibility that we'd be less inflamed because weight loss is usually linked to anti-inflammatory. Makes sense? Any questions, drop them below. Any extra help you ever need, feel free to reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. I hope you liked this. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'd love to hear your feedback or any comments or questions. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate your continued support.